Give me a little countdown.
Dojo Outfitter family, what's going on? Welcome back to the Dojo Outfitter YouTube show. Man, this is like crazy to me. Ladies and gentlemen, he doesn't even need an introduction. I'm bringing you today Craig Jones. Listen, I'm going to tell you how this happened. I literally sent Craig a 2-sentence long Instagram message that said, Mr. Craig Jones, want to be on my podcast? And he responded with, yeah, I could do that. Craig, what's up, man?
What's going on? You got me. When you said Mr. Craig Jones, I thought you were John Danaher.
Yes.
That's how you lured me in.
Dude, that's it. I'll start, because most of the time I'll say professor, right? But for some reason I just was like, you know what? Mr. Craig Jones it is. I'm just going to shoot you this quick text. And boom, you responded. Dude, thank you so much. The first time I met you was actually in 2017. I met you at 10th Planet. Dude, this is one of my favorite stories to like tell people too, especially since you've blown up. I like look over and boom, you're just sitting there on the mat. I'm like, dude, that's Craig Jones right there. So I like make my way over and I like sit down next to you. I was like, what's up, man? You want a flow roll? I don't know why. I asked you to flow roll, but you looked at me, you're like, sure, man. So we flow rolled for like a round. I think I said that just because I didn't know if you would like roll. And yeah, so we flow rolled like the whole round. And then boom, we went back and sat there. And then you kept talking to me. I was like, dude, are me and Craig Jones best friends right now? Like, it was so awesome. One of the best experiences, like meeting someone so cool. You're such a humble guy. So I just want to say thank you. It's still a story that I tell to today, 3 years later. So you're the man.
Very cool. Very cool. That was back before Submission Underground, right?
Yeah, it was, I think, right before. I don't remember why you were there. Maybe for a super fight or something. But yeah, man, it was so cool that you were like such a cool guy.
I lose too much to be too arrogant.
Well, that's not true at all, dude. That's funny that you say that because on your Instagram, the first thing it says is second place in everything. And I was like, wait a second. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to be funny with that, but I do have a lot of silver medals. I remember when I was training with Henry Cejudo for one of Mo Jassim, the guy that runs ADCC, had a camp. And Henry Cejudo started calling me triple silver. Obviously, he's triple champ.
How dare him?
It's stuck, though. It's a good one.
So, dude, tell me, how did you even get started in jiu-jitsu?
I barely even remember. It's that long ago now. So it's like, I'm thinking I was about 15 years old at the time. And my cousin was running sort of a fitness gym. And he would take martial arts lessons in his free time. And I believe he was like a 4-stripe white belt at the time. And he just started teaching jiu-jitsu at his gym, and I just jumped on board.
As a 4-stripe white belt?
Yeah, my first coach was a 4-stripe white belt.
He's like, come on down, I know everything.
Well, that's what it was like in Adelaide at the time. There was very little jiu-jitsu. Like, Adelaide's not a small city necessarily population-wise, but in terms of just what's going on in Adelaide, it sort of has a very small town feel. So really, Adelaide jiu-jitsu, when I started, when I was about 15, was probably like jiu-jitsu in the US, probably a decade earlier or something. So I relate a lot to the older guys that started jiu-jitsu in the US when there was really not a lot going on. So when I was coming up and stuff, I'd always have to wait for him to get his belt so he could then promote me. I remember I didn't even train with a black belt until I was well into purple belt. So I had no exposure to the outside jiu-jitsu world.
Uh-huh. So were you at white belt, were you good right away? Because you played sports in high school, you played rugby and you have to play basketball because I seen you dunk on Instagram.
Trying to dunk. Australian rules football. So sort of similar to rugby, but it would be like the southern states play AFL, the northern states play rugby.
Okay. And dude, when I've been to Australia a few times, and the first time I went and played basketball with some of the kids that my family knew, and they weren't dribbling, right?
Uh-huh.
They would just you couldn't dribble. So in girls basketball,
netball.
In netball, you weren't allowed to dribble. And so I was like, what are you guys doing? Did you play netball or you played basketball?
I played basketball. I played netball occasionally, like in high school and stuff. Like if they'd have a netball tournament, you get a day off school to participate in something like that, I'd jump in. But yeah, for the most part, netball is a female sport in Australia, but it's pretty big in Australia.
Yeah. Are you a Vegemite guy?
I do like Vegemite. Do you like Vegemite?
Hell no. 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 I'm not eating Vegemite. Dude, it's just too salty, right?
Too salty. How did you eat it though? Did you
On toast.
On toast,
right?
Just a little bit of Vegemite or a lot?
Probably a lot.
You just gotta have a little bit.
It's just a touch of Vegemite. How do you eat it?
If I were to eat it, it would be like just with butter and a little bit of Vegemite on toast.
Okay. So I mean, I was eating it the right way.
Yeah, you try.
Dude, you know what Australia has the best? And maybe because I was young, dude, candy.
Oh, really?
Dude, the chocolate there. Is it just me or does America have better chocolate?
I don't eat a lot of chocolate these days.
How dare you?
Australia has the best coffee, I would say.
Really?
Easily the best coffee.
I'm not a coffee guy.
No?
No, you can't have me with coffee. You saw
I saw the Monster.
You saw the Monster, right? You just want just a little bit. That's funny. So, okay, back to the question. Were you good at white belt? Were you just kind of good right away? Were you giving people the business? Or?
Well, there was no measure because like when I started, I think we had 3 people in the class. Like it was my cousin, my brother, and there was another guy there as well. So really it was like, it was impossible to determine like if I was good or not. I would just be watching UFC fights and trying moves I saw grapplers hit.
So did you do any like tournaments early on, or what was the first tournament you did?
The first tournament I did was the Australian Championships in 2009. So in Australia, they have the Australian Champs that they rotate city every year. So it'd be like, I think it'd be like Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide. Eventually makes its way back around. There would be 1 state championships per year in my home city, and then every X amount of years, the Australian Champs would come back. I won the no-gi division and lost the gi division. But I mean, the level was really rough at the time. So I mean, it's still hard to.
What belt were you at that time?
I was still a white belt in 2009.
Okay.
I really don't even remember when I got my belts. I remember I was filling out the IBJJF card at purple, and I was like, I don't remember what year I got my blue belt.
Really? That's crazy. So how long did it take you to go from white to purple?
White to purple. I have no idea really. I made up when I got my blue belt. I got my purple belt. I was at purple belt for 3.5 years. Okay. As far as I can remember, that's the belt I really started taking it seriously. Prior to that, I would just be smoking weed and showing up to open mat to roll, but really not putting any effort into technique at all. Mm-hmm. Just doing it just for pure fun, really. Mm-hmm.
So what was the like switch that hit? You just one day were like, dude, forget this. I want to be great.
It's actually, I did a trip to the US in 2013. It was more of a vacation trip, but we were going to compete as well. And I did very well in one tournament and very poorly in another. So it sort of gave me mixed messages there. I was like, oh, maybe I have the potential to be good if I work hard at it. And that sort of guided me in the right direction. I think had I just done well, I wouldn't have trained any harder. And had I just done very poorly, I probably wouldn't have trained any harder either.
Right.
So it's sort of those mixed signals gave me some hope.
That's funny how that works out like that. So tell me, so you really started competing big at purple belt then?
At purple belt, yeah.
And you did win world championships at purple belt, correct?
Eventually. I felt like I was a purple belt by Adelaide standards, but not international standards. So I spent a long time at purple belt trying to make up that ground. Because I remember I did think I was good within Adelaide at purple, but when I traveled overseas, even though I did have that success in a tournament, I still didn't feel like I was technically anywhere near those guys' level. So I really had to try and make up for lost time there. So by the end of purple belt, I won the no-gi world championships, but I really wasn't on the level when I started as a purple belt.
Mm-hmm. So when did you start working the heel hook game? Really early on, or?
And so it would have been probably 2014 I started really getting into heel hooks because I qualified for ADCC in 2014 to compete in the Brazil one in 2015. And I just started training heel hooks out of fear of having seen what Polaris did to people in 2011 or whatever. That still is a strong memory for me. So I remember thinking I have to try and understand this so I don't get my leg broken.
Facts. Because he was doing that in the UFC and everything.
Yeah.
Dude, and not letting go either.
Yeah, so I was pretty concerned about that because I was going in as a purple belt and I was already going to be undersized for the division and stuff. I remember the first trials I did, I didn't train with Lachlan Giles. I knew of him and I knew he was very good, and I saw he'd register for 77 kilos and I was probably 77 kilos walking around, so I decided to just jump in 88. I was like, I probably have no chance of beating him, so I'll just do 88 kilos. And I ended up winning the 88 kilo division.
Wow. So what has been like your biggest what's the biggest thing that's helped you with the leg lock game? Like what was the thing that like really like made it click? Like you were like, oh man, I'm like one of the best in the world at this.
I think it's just never actually thinking that. You know what I mean? Like they're constantly trying to work on it and stuff. I had early success with the heel hooks when I think my heel hook game probably wasn't up to scratch either. But because I'd had that early success, people were terrified of my leg locks, so they wouldn't try to counterattack my legs. I just had free reign to enter their legs, attack. If I miss, get out of there.
Yeah.
So I think the fear of people had of my leg locks gave me a lot of confidence because they would never try to counterattack. A lot of guys would think if they would counterattack, they'd get heel hooked themselves.
Right.
Thinking my leg lock offense was a lot better than it was.
Yeah. And I mean, because your number 2 submission is rear naked choke. So you probably ended up having people be so worried about the legs that boom, now you give up the back.
Yeah, because I mean, if you enter the legs, they turn to run away, then they're going to offer up some back exposure there.
Yeah. Dude, let's get into Lachlan Giles a little bit more. So tell me the first time you actually met him.
I think the first time I probably met him was at the ADCC trials in South Korea. The one I was telling you about where he was in 77, I was in 88. And when I qualified for that, that's when I decided, I better go train with him. We can help each other prepare, mainly me getting help there because he was already a black belt at that stage. So then throughout 2015, I started visiting his gym. And he had taken over a guy's gym that was Kit Dale's gym. Kit Dale had started a gym, and I don't think he was a big fan of being the head coach and the business side of things, so he sort of let that slide a little, and then Lachlan Giles came in and bought the gym, and along with the competitors that were there to train with Kit, they stayed to train. Most of them stayed to train with Lachlan Giles, so when I would go visit, we would have a pretty good squad by Australian standards to train with.
Right.
And then we both ended up competing at ADCC Brazil, losing first round. I lost to Homolo very quickly. Lachlan Giles lost to Gilbert Burns, I think near the end of the regulation period and stuff. But that's where the relationship started. And then after I won Nogi Worlds the same year, so I think ADCC was September, Nogi Worlds was November, I just moved to Melbourne and started training with him full time.
So what belt were you when?
Still a purple belt.
Still a purple. So then when did he give you your brown belt?
So he gave me my brown belt straight after Nogi Worlds, so just December. And then exactly 12 months after that, I got my black.
Do you wish you would have got podium promoted? Dude, that's like got to be the dream, right? Getting promoted on the podium.
I guess so. I don't know. I never made the podium too much to have that.
Oh, that's right. Second place. They're like, no, we can't give it to him for second place.
Yeah, that would be funny if the second place guy got promoted, but gold
stayed the same. The gold guy like looks down. He's like, I just beat this guy.
What's happening?
Yeah, sir, can I borrow that belt?
But that's when I started training with Lachlan Giles. Was straight after Nogi Worlds full time. So I was with Lachlan Giles full time for probably 13 months from purple to black. Mm-hmm. So he promoted me quick. And actually, a funny story is he gave me the black belt probably quicker than he was thinking he was going to, because Eddie Bravo told him that only black belts could do EBI. So he gave me the black so I could do the one in I think February the following year.
Was that the one where you faced Gordon, or that was a earlier one?
Gordon was in the same event, but I had lost to Wagner Hoscher in the semi. So I had a match against Nathan Orchard, Dara O'Connell, right, and then lost to Wagner. But yeah, that's how the sort of training started with me and Giles. And then after that, we were both still a similar weight division. So I was about 80 kilos. He was about 80 kilos walk around weight. I don't know what the pound conversion is.
Don't ask, dude. Let me tell you what. Sensei knows this. Do not ask me about math. Unless it's 20%. Because like I said, I'm a bartender. I'll tell you 20% quicker than anything. But I'm terrible at math. I'd be like, I don't know, heavy and little less heavy.
176? Yeah, so we were both walking around at 176. And this was in 2016, and the ADCC Asian trials were announced again. So that was for ADCC, and the trials were in Kazakhstan. So me and Lucky ended up having a gym battle to decide who could do 77, because we were both too undersized for 88. So this was in 2016. We went to war in the gym. We ended up doing like 4 or 5 overtimes because no one scored a point on each other. Uh-huh. But eventually he scored the point and he stayed in 77, and that's the reason why I started getting bigger to do the 88 kilo trials.
He also claims that in an interview that you going up in weight is really what made it to where you kind of took the next step on him.
Yeah, because I mean, when I first moved there, he just beat the shit out of me. But it was a coach relationship at that point. He was bringing me up, teaching me a lot of stuff. But as over time, I managed to start getting even with him at the same weight, and then really probably stayed technically a similar level at that point. But the size difference definitely helped me out a lot in training after that.
So tell me.
But I am glad he beat me in the gym and set me up in weight, because the guys aren't as good at a heavier weight. So it's like
he did you a favor.
Yeah, if you're struggling in the lighter weights, it's probably better to go up than down.
Some great advice from Craig Jones here, guys. So tell me how it felt for you to see what Lachlan did at ADCC this year, making that run in the absolute. For me, that stole the show. That was my number one highlight. Number two was Gordon winning the double gold, but number one was I actually like had barely heard of Lachlan Giles. And then he just went out and just heel hooked everyone, and it was such a fun performance to watch that I just immediately became a fan.
Yeah, so I obviously it was amazing for the fans and stuff, so exciting stuff. It was cool on a personal level to see him succeed, because I think at that point he'd been competing in jiu-jitsu for 17 years. And obviously, like you said, you didn't know who Lachlan Giles was until that day. So I think it was sort of poetic for him to finally have that moment. And I guess he watched me have a similar moment at the previous ADCC. So for him to go out there as the underdog and pull something off similar was very, very cool to see.
Yeah, because he beat like some jacked dudes.
Oh, yeah.
I never want to grapple with people who take their shirts off. And he faced like all shirts off guys.
Well, I think it would have showed as well. He beat Kainan. That's the most incredible thing, beating the over 99 champ. So first round in the absolute, they're probably thinking giving Kainan an easy match, because Lachlan Giles had lost first round in his weight division. That was the most impressive thing for me to see, him beating Kainan. But again, it just showed the sort of, if you have the right technique, you can overcome the size and strength. Because a lot of those bigger guys, I mean, Gaudio and Muhammad Ali, they don't have any leg lock game whatsoever. You know what I mean? They're IBJJF guys they've come across, so it's just showed the leg lock still can beat the big guys.
Yeah, definitely. So do you think that they kind of didn't take him as seriously? And then, because it just, the way the matches went, it was like they were letting him get in on the leg locks, and I was like...
that was funny. I think that's what Kainan that day, he'd already had he had the match against Buchecha in the semifinals, I believe. And in the finals, he had the war with Nicky Rod. So he obviously was still looking for that absolute title. Obviously, still got incredible cardio. But I think he definitely didn't take Lachlan Giles too seriously and wasn't putting a heavy pace on him. It always sort of easing into it, warming up for the absolute, and then just slipped up and gets caught. Patrick Gaudio had a crazy war with Mike Perez. I thought this guy had a heart attack. He was he's on the side of the mats, laying on his back. People are putting ice on him, massaging everything. And the guys are like, you got to get out there. You got your next match. And he was like dying. I thought he was going to die. And he looks up and sees that his next opponent is Lachlan Giles, a little guy. And that gave him the strength to get up and compete. And then he gets his ass kicked by a little guy.
Oh, I'll fight that guy.
That was literally it. He's laying down dead and he leans up and sees there's a small guy. He's like, all right, let's go. Then goes and gets his leg popped.
Dude, that one was nasty.
Yeah, that was real nasty. And then obviously Muhammad Ali. But the funny thing about it was they were all sitting together afterwards, icing their knee. But neither one of them saw the previous matches of Lucky. So it's like they weren't even paying it, or they didn't have a coach that was paying attention, being like, yo, this is what you got to watch out for in this one. Neither of them changed the game plan over the course.
Right.
Which is pretty funny.
Yeah, you got to make adjustments, right? Are you an adjustment guy? Can you make quick adjustments?
I try to. I try to navigate people's strengths, try and navigate around their strengths.
Yeah, it took me, like, obviously as a blue belt, I'm still a new grappler, but it took me a long time to figure out, like, to actually think about what people were doing. For the longest time, I just tried to fight people. Yeah, and that doesn't work out as good as if you think about what they're doing.
Well, it's probably good in the training room to put yourself in their A game, but definitely you got to have a well-rounded game to avoid that in competition.
Yeah, so that brings up a good point. I actually want to talk about two things. You brought up Nicky Rod. I'm curious, the training sessions with him. What's that? What that is like with you?
Nicky Rod's greatest strength, because he's obviously he's still a beginner in jiu-jitsu. Only got his purple belt at ADCC. So it's like what he does well is he only does what he knows. in the training room, he does experiment and stuff, but when you see him compete, he's just doing what he's been taught. There's no improvisation. He understands his technical level and sticks to the game plan better than anyone. I think also he comes from wrestling, and they have very strong minds in wrestling, very, very tough, very hard to break.
Right.
So he brings that energy across to jiu-jitsu. I think we're sort of pussies compared to how a lot of the freestyle wrestlers and stuff train. Probably even the judo guys too.
Oh, dude, yeah. Dude, just taking falls alone sucks in judo until you get good at it. You just got to get thrown by big dudes enough, and then Olympic alternates enough, and then you're like, oh, this throw ain't so bad.
Yeah, I feel like you got to be thrown enough that you can relax being thrown. I remember
Facts.
Travis Stevens, when I rolled with him, he said to me, he goes, I don't throw jiu-jitsu guys because they injure themselves. So it's like...
Except for that one match. You seen that one match he had where he like threw the same guy like 8 times in a row? He'd like let him
Copa Podio, right? Yeah. I think it was Philippe Pena.
That was like my favorite match of his. Go ahead, get up. I'm going to throw you again.
Or his back take on Polo Miao in that tournament. That's pretty crazy as well.
Dude. So tell me about your preparations for ADCC this year. Did you have a big camp, or is it kind of the same for you all the time?
I prepare, the whole focus of training all the time is for ADCC. But in the interim, for any super fights and stuff, we change the game plan, change some of the round style to prepare for that specific super fight. Or maybe if it's EBI overtime, we throw in overtime rounds at the end of training when we're already fatigued. Mm-hmm. But we're always just focused on ADCC. What's interesting with ADCC and stuff is how hard it is to score points on people. You have to pin both shoulders to the floor for at least 3 seconds. And I don't think the typical jiu-jitsu positions are really good for pinning people. It's why a lot of jiu-jitsu guys have trouble when they roll with an MMA fighter for the first time, where if they sweep him, the MMA fighter stands up. Or if they pass the MMA fighter's guard, they turn in, grab an underhook, and wrestle back to their feet. Traditional jiu-jitsu guys aren't very good at pinning people, holding people down. So I think that's the real difference with preparing for ADCCs. It's a whole lot different when we need to score points pinning both shoulders rather than just putting their butt on the floor.
Mm-hmm. So I've talked about this a lot, but do you think that ADCC has the right rule set for jiu-jitsu people? Because to me, it's more of a point wrestling tournament.
I think it's so. The problem is jiu-jitsu is such a young sport. Submission wrestling's a young sport. I would consider ADCC more submission wrestling than Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And the problem is it hasn't had enough time where guys have adapted to the rules. But ADCC's rules, I think, are the best rules for a jiu-jitsu match because it encourages takedowns, encourages pinnings. Like, a lot of the time, we don't hold each other down in jiu-jitsu unless we're in a good position. But really, I believe the rule set should be that, like, if I sweep someone, I shouldn't allow distance for them to stand up. I should be actively holding them down. And that's what I think ADCC does very well, encourages that style of grappling. Encourages a style of grappling where you're constantly heisting on your opponent, trying to get back up, trying to make it very difficult to be pinned. So I think as the sport progresses, it is going to look less like jiu-jitsu guys doing shitty wrestling, and it's going to evolve into something more different to Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
So another question that I have is, a lot of the times in your matches, you come right out and just sit right down. Do you think that's the with it being such a wrestling points type thing, do you do that because the first 5 minutes there's no points, or what's kind of do you switch up your strategy a little bit?
I mean, depending on who my opponent is, I'm gonna choose, and still most of the time it's still gonna be to sit. But I remember, like, I changed the game plan. I had a match with Keenan at ADCC in 2017 where he was able to pass my guard, and then when we had the rematch, I didn't pull guard at all. I just stood up and wrestled with him. And that really confused him. So based on who it is, it's sort of going to lead me to make a decision. Especially, like, if there's no points, we might as well, or if it's a short match, we might as well get down to the ground as quickly as possible. It's hard to really say what the right strategy is in that sense. But yeah, for the most part, for me, pulling guard's going to be better. My sweeps will be better than my takedowns.
Right. Yeah. Did you love half guard right away? Or... was it something that you kind of had to like build into? I
think because I was a kid when I started. I was a kid that started in a gym without kids classes. So I only wrestled with much bigger, stronger people. So I always found that knee shield, half guard style, a good way to keep people's weight off of me. I found that at that age, and it sort of stuck with me, it was easy to keep weight off of me with a knee shield rather than with an underhook trying to get up. That's sort of why I stuck with that half guard game.
Very interesting. So you're actually fighting tomorrow, Wagner Rocha at Sug. This is your 8th Sug,
Something
right?
like that, yeah.
7th or 8th?
If we count the tag team, yeah.
I don't think we can count the tag. Listen, I'm a big Craig Jones fan. I'm a big Craig. We can't count that tag team. You had the best seat in the house. Nicky Rod had the workout of a lifetime. How'd that conversation go?
Well, you know what's funny is that I was touring America at the time, and I'd gotten sick.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I hope it wasn't the coronavirus, but I was pretty short of breath and stuff for that match. So I was just like, bro, I'm going to be useless. I'm like, the plan was pull Vinny into the corner, tag me, I'll jump in for the regulation period, but I'm not going to do overtime. Because I was having trouble breathing as it was, and I was like, someone starts EBI overtime, it's going to be bad. But yeah, luckily Nicky Rod's so mentally strong, it's like, you tell him to do something, he goes out, doesn't even think about it.
You got it, coach.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But so how have you gotten so many submission underground matches? You probably have to be one of the top persons who's done it the most.
Yeah, I think it's just being able to draw interest in a match. You know what I mean? And the only way to do that is to finish people. And Chael Sonnen, like if you go out to submission underground, you finish your opponent, especially in regulation, he's going to bring you back. So I've managed to do that for every match. So that sort of creates intrigue to bring me back. And I think that's what a lot of grapplers miss. A lot of guys, so if you, like you said at the last ADCC, you said Lachlan Giles and Gordon Ryan. What do those two have in common? The submission rate. The other guys that won their divisions got no press, no interest, created no new fans because they weren't finishing anyone.
Exactly. Buchecha is boring. He was super boring.
Uh-oh.
Oh my God, dude, my sensei's so mad at me right now. Dude, he's boring. I'm sorry. That's a blue belt saying that, though. So, dude, if anybody knows Buchecha, please don't show him this clip. Please. He's already been tagged in this clip, and it's not even out. But for real, honestly, like some of the bigger guys just aren't exciting, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's like, you can't expect to get paid for super fights if you're boring. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, no one's going to want to watch that.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get victories by like edging out your opponent, it's like, you got to understand that nobody's going to, like, you're not going to want to go to a guy's seminar, buy a guy's DVD. You're not going to want to show up and pay for a super fight if he's boring.
He's just going to stall.
Yeah, not submit anyone.
Okay, let's get to the good stuff here.
Uh-oh.
Your last match against Vinny. That was crazy. I actually remember texting my sensei, and I was like, Craig broke Vinny's leg. And he's like, send pic. and dude, it was crazy. It was crazy. I could tell the first time you went in on it, it was funny, right? So kind of walk me through it a little bit.
Yeah, so the Vinny match, a lot of people from the tag team, they were really just interested in seeing me and Vinny go at it. I mean, maybe me and Kyle Boehm too, but the real strong selling point was Vinny. And like Vinny's notorious, he hasn't tapped. I think the only person that's tapped him is Hodger Gracie in the gi. And that was like 15 years ago. So the basically submission underground's focus is submissions. That was the answer, is like, could I submit him? And then on top of that, you throw in that I'm known for leg locks, and he's known for not tapping to leg locks.
Yeah.
So that's what made it most interesting.
That's why I was interested. I had to know what was going to happen.
I think what he did, saying leg locks don't work, he's obviously joking around because he submits people with leg locks, but he wants people to believe that they can't leg lock him, so they don't try. And I was even having second thoughts. I was like, shoot, like, I had other people, a lot of people online were saying, Craig's not going to leg lock him. I had people say to me, oh, you're probably not going to be able to break his leg. But I remember just thinking, like, he's human like anyone else. Enough pressure, perfect angle, it's going to snap. And obviously it just goes to show that his ankles and knees are super flexible, because I don't believe there was any damage to his knee at all. The weakest link ended up being his fibula.
That's wild. So it was hard to hear what you guys were saying. So what was the first thing that you kind of said to him? Because it happened, boom, it looked like it popped, and then boom, you guys started talking to each other. Yeah,
well, I got in on his leg basically under a minute. Like,
it was quick.
I didn't know at the time that it had broken his fibula at the time. I just heard a pop, and he just basically ate it and had a good poker face. I didn't know in that moment how bad it was. So the first thing, I just gave him props, being like, oh, like, good work on that. Vinny's pace for that match was pretty slow. Yeah. Pretty slow these days compared to when he was younger. So there is time to sort of say, give him a fist bump or something, say props on eating that one. You know what I mean? I remember thinking he just ate it. I heard it pop, but he just ate it and he's going to go on like nothing. Then when I went back on the leg, I wanted to give it another crack, see.
And it was quick again. You like got back in on, dude, if I was Vinny, I would have been like anything but getting right back in on this leg.
Yeah, straight back in on that leg.
Straight back, the same leg and everything.
I tricked him. I made it look like I was going to the other leg, but went straight back to the same one. And then
you dog.
when I got to it, there was no resistance at all. So I started twisting it, and I started seeing his bone pop to his skin, and I realized, obviously the last one did break it. And then when it slipped out, when I sort of let go of that one, I was just like, I don't know if you know how bad this is. I was like, your leg's really bad. And like even the referee was sort of looking, cringing and stuff. And he was just like, oh, it's already fucked. Let's just keep going. But then over time, I think he started to notice how much swelling was happening and stuff. And he asked the referee how much time left, because we don't have coaches for quarantine. So the ref wouldn't give him the amount of time left in the match. The ref just said 5 minutes. And his plan at the time was to
try and make it to OT.
He didn't even want to make it to OT. He just wanted to finish regulation and call it quits, because then he could still say he didn't tap. But as soon as the ref sees him start asking for time, the ref's like, oh, that's it. And he's like, all right.
Dude, well, for me, it was when he tried to come back up on top. Then you saw his leg like wobbling around.
Yeah, after I broke his leg, I should have just stood up. Made him stand up, made him walk on that leg. But in the heat of the moment, I wasn't thinking. If I'd had a coach there or something, they probably would have said, Craig, stand up. You can't. His leg's broken. They probably also would have known it was broken in the first minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a strange series of events. But I mean, if you're going to say leg locks don't work, I mean, you're going to live and die by that.
That's what Sensei says about the Ezekiel choke.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to Ezekiel choke, you better be willing to get a fist right back in the neck.
That's funny.
Dude, okay, so my favorite part of the match is at the very end, he's sitting there on the ground, and you like walk over to him with like a just like, I don't know, a smile on your face, and you look at him and you go, dude, you're effing crazy, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was thinking in that after the match, I was like, yo, this guy's signed to an MMA contract with PFL and stuff. Like, he's like probably near the end of his career, realistically. So it's like, what are you doing here? Like, but I think maybe it probably just, he didn't expect it to break. It broke too quick, and he was just like, oh, fuck, it's already broken. I'm not feeling any pain. Let's just keep going. But then afterwards, he's like, if you're going to break your leg, you might as well do it in quarantine. He's like, I can't do anything anyway.
Dude. Oh my gosh. Does Wagner Rocha have any chance? This, by the way, isn't going to be out by the time. So we can just, if you mess this up, we can just edit this out. Just kidding.
Like if I had to weigh up the Wagner Rocha match, I'd say we basically had an even match 3 years ago. And since then, I've gained probably 25 pounds of weight.
Of muscle.
Yeah. And then he's stayed the same weight. He's obviously increased his skill, but being that he's older, you're not going to have the same return on learning new skills, I think, past 30, especially past mid-30s. So I would like to assume that this should be a very difficult match for him to win. But he is very strategic, and potentially over time anything could happen. But I think if we had an even match 3 years ago, we're both still improving, but I've also gained size. It should tip in my favor for this.
Dude, I actually listened to an interview that you did, and you said you actually get more nervous for the matches you're supposed to win.
Yeah.
Tell me, dude, I'm a wreck. I suck. Dude, I suck at competitions. Like, I go out there and it's like they have a gun and a knife or something, and it's like, dude, we're just doing jujitsu, but I just get so like,
so nervous.
I want to do good. That's what it is. Like, I'm not scared. I want to do good for everyone. And it's like I put so much of my life's effort into this that no one wants to go out and get embarrassed. Like, I don't care if I lose. I don't want to get embarrassed.
But you got to look at it like going out and being too scared to attempt anything is more embarrassing than attempting something and getting submitted quickly. Pick a game plan and go for it. That's, even if it fails, is less embarrassing than being afraid of your opponent.
You know, Sensei has a very similar thing where he says, if you tried everything that you know, what else could you do? And that's something that I've kind of taken with me this whole time too, is like, if I tried everything that I know and it didn't work, what else could I have done? It's not like I could grab a Craig Jones DVD the night before and just heel hook someone.
Yeah, I mean, it's better to go and miss than it is to just be afraid.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to take shots out there though. You get in there and you sometimes, I would say I freeze kind of. I go out there and freeze a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that'll take time. I mean, everyone's nervous. No one's not nervous to compete. The fear of failure is never going to go away.
Yeah. What's the most common question that you get from people?
I mean, probably now it's going to be about Vinny, but it used to be about Gordon's arm. Gordon's arm in the upper.
Dude.
It used to be that. Now it's probably going to be Vinny.
That's kind of a crazy story. Did you see Keenan do a breakdown on that?
A breakdown on it, yep.
Yeah. What'd you think about that?
It was a good breakdown, and he's definitely correct in it. I think it's something that I've learned since training with those guys is that if your opponent can still move within an armbar, if they can try to hit Chaika or they can try to come up, the arm will not snap. The arm's only going to snap when movement stops, when your opponent's weight distribution settles. So you can put pressure on the arm, but it's not going to break until they stop. If you ever watch any armbar footage, it's never broken transition. It's broke static. So if I could have locked more, maybe a triangle with my legs, Gordon's movement would have slowed down more than just having my 2 feet laying across his chest.
Right, because at the very end, you actually triangled his shoulder, right, with the kind of the grip you had. I don't know. That was crazy. You thought you had him, huh? I thought you had him. I thought you had him.
I had hoped.
That was crazy. What was that?
I counted as a victory because he should have tapped,
He should have tapped. He should have tapped. That's funny that you can. I mean, it's hard not to count that as a victory.
Oh, I'm joking.
No, but I'm not. Like, for real though, that I would. Everyone says he's the best grappler in the world. Dude, you had him to the brink.
Yeah, but I guess he wants it more than me because I would have tapped.
Wow.
I would have tapped in Vinny's situation. I would have tapped in Gordon's situation.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I'm kind of the same way where I want to live another day. I want to train tomorrow and the next day. I don't want my arm snapped or broken or anything.
Yeah.
So where are you living nowadays?
I live in Hoboken, so I moved full time to New York, basically. Obviously, Hoboken's Jersey, but I train in New York.
It's cheaper to live in Jersey.
Yeah, cheaper. I think the rental properties are cheaper just because of the taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't love New York, but I do like it during quarantine because no one's around.
Right? It's probably easy to get to wherever you're going. Definitely not training.
Yeah, wherever I'm training in secret.
Wherever that happens.
Yeah, definitely easier on the subways and stuff now.
So, do you have a lady friend?
I'm married, yeah.
You're married, okay. How long have you been married?
I don't even know. I've been married close to 2 years.
We'll cut that out. Nah, she's not going to listen to this. She's like, F that guy. Oh, dude, so where did the F Craig Jones come up with? And second question, I want to know, do you like or do you mind that every person who takes a picture with you, it's hashtag F Craig Jones?
It's just a joke. I think it's because like when I train, I would like to submit someone with something degrading, something they'll remember. You know what I mean? That's where it sort of comes from.
Okay.
That's where it sort of started. But then my sponsor just put on a rash guard as a joke, but then people really enjoyed it.
I loved it. I was hooked. I was hooked right away because it's kind of like, to me, it's cool that you're kind of making fun of yourself, but you're like cool with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the difference between maybe Australians and the US. Like the US, I feel like people don't make fun of themselves as much. Self-deprecating humor is sort of the foundation of Australia. And that's sort of like, I don't mind any insult online thrown to me because like in Australia, me and my friends, we say the worst shit in the world to each other. So it's like, if they can't offend me, hopefully the internet can't either.
Dude, the internet's ruthless.
Yeah.
Dude.
I felt bad for Vinny after the last one. People were pretty ruthless to him.
Dude, the internet's undefeated, man. You'll get memed so fast.
You got to be able to appreciate it. I appreciate it if it's funny. Like if someone gets me with a good zinger or something, that's good.
I like a nice zinger. I can laugh at myself. I've gotten way better about that. I feel like jiu-jitsu did that to me, where I just got submitted enough times where I'm like, well, I just suck, so might as well make fun of myself. So, what else you got? What else you got planned for the future? I mean, if quarantine gets over with, you gonna try and get back out on the road, do seminars, or
Yeah, I will try to aim to do some seminars, but while I'm in New York, I think I'll just try to focus on training full time. I did a US tour before quarantine began, so I sort of like hit like 12, 13 seminars. So I was like, that's probably enough for a while. So
do you like doing seminars?
I much prefer doing a seminar to a private lesson or something. I much prefer doing a big group seminar, get a big group out of the way.
Yeah. How come?
Well, privates can be very draining. Seminars can be draining in a different way, but you sort of I guess you're satisfying a bigger group. Whereas if I did a private, maybe 1 or 2 people or something, I usually would have to. It'd be a very personal lesson. For the most part, privates, people don't even want to really learn technique most of the time. Just want to do a move, hang out for a bit of time, you know.
Dude, that's what I was gonna say. I'd be like, dude, if I did a private with you, I'd be like, let's just sit here and like. I'd try and roll with you the whole time. I'd be like, I'll just get my ass kicked for a whole hour.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it, is roll with the person, and then they can fix things they see on the fly.
Right.
A seminar's a bit easier because you get that whole group. You can sort of teach everyone the same stuff. And I like to teach the same thing at every seminar for a certain period of time, so that any questions I get for the next seminar, I can include that in the explanation. You can get better and better at teaching something.
Yeah. So, what's your plans for MMA? Are you gonna do it, or?
No, probably not. I always joke about this. I always say if Ryzen gives me the same contract that gave Gabby Garcia, where I could fight old women, I'd do it. But
dude, we like to call those tomato cans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down for that.
Yeah, just jump in on a quick heel hook, get paid.
I don't even think MMA is for grapplers. You know what I mean? Like the idea of stand-ups, 5-minute rounds. You know, it's like since I guess the unified rules came in and stuff, it's like if you want to be a grappler, make the transition. It's hard enough to submit someone in a 5-minute period, let alone someone you have to take down, hold down, and submit in that amount of time.
Do you have plans after competing to have your own school?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, depending on where and stuff. Like, I'd like to be a coach of high-level guys, but I guess it would have to be a large group bringing up white belts and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, but for anyone that's been teaching out there, like I used to teach at Absolute and stuff, teaching white belts is hard work, you know?
Dude, teaching kids is hard.
Yeah, I've done that as well.
I helped teach kids judo for like 3 or 4 years, and it's always the new ones that are like, it's so hard. It's so hard because they take a lot of energy and a lot of focus.
Yeah, I don't know how people do it.
It's rewarding though, man. Like I made relationships with some of these kids, and now they're getting older, and so it's cool to like see them still like remember me and be like, Coach Ian.
Has any kid you've taught been able to beat you up yet?
No, but there's a couple.
They're on their way.
They're on the way. I'm not kidding. There's these two, Whitaker and Monty. I'm going to say the last name wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But these two kids have been at it, probably since 5. They're in wrestling schools. Their dad is probably 6'6", 300 pounds, a monster.
That's massive.
Their mom's 6 foot. These kids, I mean, the one kid is only 11, and he's almost as tall as me, So that's why I'm being nice to him now.
Yeah.
Like, come on, it's Coach Ian. I showed you so much good stuff.
Those parents got together to make some athletes, eh?
Dude. Facts. They saw each other and they were like, this is happening. Division I All-Americans, here we come. Have you made any beasts yet? Have you like...
I only taught kids for a small period of time. I only filled in at Absolute when the other coach there, Mikhail, was out of town and stuff. Yeah, but I could only handle it for 1 week at a time, 2 weeks at a time.
What about like adults? Have you like transformed any adults? Do you have any like...
I taught a small group at a gym in Melbourne in Collingwood, and 2 of the guys there were getting very good. They were doing well in competitions and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it is hard to build a good jiu-jitsu. It takes a long time, you know what I mean? And I only taught for maybe 2 years tops. And obviously I was in and out of town a lot competing myself and stuff. So it's like, I think I'll save being able to actually build a really well-rounded athlete until I'm just focused on coaching. Mm-hmm. I think that's where John Danaher, I think that's what makes him special is, I mean, he can't even really roll anymore.
Right.
And all he's doing is watching class, watching us roll and making adjustments on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
So he sees it. I mean, whereas the average coach is going to be, they're going to be training at the same time, you know?
How much has Coach Donaher helped you?
Yeah, helped me definitely become more well-rounded, a much more well-rounded grappler. Been like, I think since I've been training with him full-time, I've only lost one match. Obviously, ADCC final, but still a painful one. I don't count the tag team.
Yeah, you didn't even do anything, so you can't count that one.
Yeah.
You took the night off. I don't even know.
I shouldn't have even got changed for that.
Honestly, you just come out in like your street clothes and your shoes still on, just waving.
Yeah.
That's so funny. All right, dude. Well, again, this has been like such an amazing experience. Thank you so much for coming out here on your day off. You could have been anywhere. Well, you could have been doing anything in Oregon today. And to come on the show, man, it really means so much to me. Thank you so much. Guys, Craig Jones, Dojo Outfitters, holla at me. Peace. I should have said DVD.
Buy the DVD.
Buy the DVD.
Buy Craig's DVD.